What I ended up mentioning is that the 17 SDGs are reference to develop a structural model for viability, which I call the organizational system. However, to make it operational, to work with it, I will talk about the VIPLAN methodology. It's a way to connect that the SDGs that we have connected get embodiment in relationships. And it is a methodology to work out the necessary conversations and communications for people to engage in sustainability. And now I think I'm going to show you the methodology, the VIPLAN methodology. The VIPLAN methodology is a learning methodology. You can see there the 4 typical stages of learning, which are observing, appreciating, designing, and producing. So that's the typical learning loop, where you start by observing and you end up by producing. In our case here, we have the observing today in the world that we are operating, and in particular the world of SDGs. Big data is at the background. So we have huge amount of data related to sustainability at the global, regional, community levels, and they are related to the SDGs performance. And the next thing is, that's the observing end. The next thing is what I here refer to as conversations about sustainability issues at the global, meso and local organizational systems. And that is whatever we have been observing, like for instance the problems of forest fires in Slovenia, which is one of the strategic, possibly, I don't know that, but could be one of the possible sustainable development goals. If you have that issue, now we want to know exactly what are the borders of that issue, who are involved in this particular concern for forest fires in Slovenia, and at that point our concern is to know who are the people involved in dealing with this issue to reduce the impact of this or to improve the situation altogether. What we need first is to name the system, that is relevant to the issue of wood fires, but then we need to name the organizational system that is relevant. So here you see, this is naming the system, related to naming the system with the length of the dry season, incidence of severity of wildfire, atmospheric CO2 concentration, average surface temperature, all them feeding back into themselves. So I showed this diagram as a system dynamics model. And this particular issue, which is relevant to a country like Slovenia, I want to connect it to social responsibility. While many governments have signed on how to tackle the SDGs, governments cannot achieve them alone. This is the point I was making recently. So the 17th goal is a call for business and citizens to step up to collectively and systemically solve the world's biggest issues. And that's where I just moved into a society taking responsibility for the development of these. And here you can see that's what we already showed to you. And What I think is important from the point of view of the Y-plan methodology is that we name the two systems. We name the system, which in this case is forest fires, and we name the organizational system that is dealing with that. With the fire services and all the aspects related to forest fires, we developed a conceptual modeling, which is the model that I showed to you related to the system dynamics of the situation. And from there, we developed new necessities, new capabilities. We need to integrate, reconfigure, and gain related resources to deal with the SDGs. But at the same time that we deal with the learning loop, which is how to handle conceptually the issue, we need to understand and develop the organization that is going to handle that. And that is what I call the cybernetic loop. The cybernetic loop inside there, the cybernetic loop is related to conversations about sustainability and diagnosing the operational communications among SDGs in relevant organizational systems. So the next thing is to deal with the organizational system and diagnose the system that is strictly relevant to our concerns at hand. And that is what we related to the viable system model. The next aspect of this is what I feel very strongly about, because from the organizational systems model, what we learn is who are the relevant actors, who are the relevant agents that need to be involved in the conversations. So one of the questions that I usually ask people, how do you know who are the people relevant to handle these issues? And the answer is nil. I get no answer. People don't know. They can understand the conceptual connections between the different aspects of a problem, but what is more difficult is to answer who are the people involved in these discussions. And for that you need to work out the organizational system, and the organizational system is the one that methodologically leads you to recognizing who are the people dealing with, in this case, forest fires in Slovenia. I hope I have made clear the connection between the issue and the organizational system, because at the end of the day, that's what we need when we are handling issues that go so far ahead, like the climate change or problems of general sustainability. We need to, first of all, learn where are the boundaries of these systems, and then who are involved in dealing with them. The integration of fragmented agents into organizational systems with organizational closure and embodied sustainability is necessary to develop relationships of citizenship with those providing context for their activities. And these more global organizational systems have to fight for their own sustainability development goals. So, in the end, we bring together fragments that are structurally scattered throughout the system, and we recognize the actors who are relevant to managing the situation, and that's where we start to work out connectivity between this issue and wider issues. So the problems of humanity, the problems of Earth as a whole, are the more global ones that encompass a wide variety, very large number of issues that are of a meso and micro level. And the problem for us is to establish connectivity so that we know who to talk with and where to go in relations to these problems. This is what I have related very often to the idea of a distributed sustainability in society. So we start from the global system where we may have the climate change of Earth as a whole, but within that climate change we have a whole range of problems of climate adaptation and climate danger in regions, and these regions have themselves a whole range of communities and enterprises related to the production of this sustainability problem. And from there is that we can start to establish the citizenship, the connections, the relationships of citizenship to make these things happen. The example that is all too familiar for all of us is that it is vital that the world temperature does not climb much more than 1.5 centigrades above pre-industrial levels. Yet, simultaneously, the agreements of the Paris meeting of December 2015 go nowhere close to preventing such rise. The individual pledges that nations made are estimated to put the world on a course for about 3 centigrades. So that is extremely dangerous for society as a whole. And the problem for society is that you cannot just leave to individual countries and individual communities and individual groups to handle these issues locally. You have to connect them, and that's the argument I have put back when I was saying citizenship, organizational citizenship in society is crucial to handle issues that are of a global nature, like in this case the temperature of Earth. So with this I just want to close my presentation by saying achieving the above 14 socioeconomic SDGs is likely to exceed the environmental carrying capacity of nations, regions, enterprises as a consequence of defeating the 3 environmental SDGs, which are climate action, life below water, and life on land. The methodology proposed here offers an organizational approach to deal operationally with SDGs beyond the most commonly used conceptual models that we recognize in system dynamics. So that is essentially the end of my presentation. Thank you.